Chuckloaf here, and we are jumping the gun with another show. May has just concluded, and I had my most successful month yet with 113 movies viewed. Just beat out January, so it's a good sign going forward. But we got some strange movies on this list today, folks. Wow. But that's later on. So let's get going with what we got. 426, The Automatic Hate. This was an awesome movie. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It had two feuding brothers, and they both got kids, and the one, I guess they're cousins, and the one girl from the one brother reached out to the son of the other brother, to try to work this out and figure out what happened, and they work it out, sort of, and then the father, the grandpa, he dies, so they have a funeral, and they're all together finally, and then things get crazy. But interesting film, Automatic Hate. 427, The Legend of BigFoot. This was a 70s Bigfoot movie, so I expected very little, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It's the main character, there's really no back and forth dialogue. You only hear from the main guy, and he's facing the camera and he's telling you what's going to happen in this, and how he was a skeptic. Hard word for me to say, skeptic. He was a skeptic of Bigfoot, and then the movie starts, and then it kind of just narrates what was going on, and there's recreations, and he had to go. He's a tracker, that's his job, and he had to go help these farmers find out why their cattle's missing, and then he discovers all these giant footprints and these giant creatures around, and so he digs a little further, and I enjoyed it because it wasn't viewed Bigfoot as a crazy psycho killer in the woods. It was Bigfoot viewed as a docile, kind creature. So that made me like it. But yeah, interesting 70s movie. 428, Winchester, a very new movie. Helen Mirren, based on the actual Winchester house, which is still up and still doing tours. A house that the widow of the Winchester fortune decided to continue building nonstop 24/7 because the spirits told her to. So yeah, you can kind of figure that she's a little nuts, but there's a lot of substance in this film, but kind of lacked soul. Didn't really have a whole lot of in-depth in the story. Just kind of went from one scene to the next, and still, it was watchable. It wasn't, it wasn't horrible. This movie was good. 429, Pawn Shop Chronicles. If you're big into comic book action, violence type stuff, this was right up your alley. And you'll never look at the American flag the same way again. Trust me. It's all these kind of overly violent stories that kind of center around this pawn shop in the middle of nowhere. And it had 1 billion people in it. Paul Walker, Elijah Wood, Matt Dillon, Brendan Fraser, who is remarkably good in this. He played a kind of a low-rent Elvis impersonator. But yeah, this was a pleasant find. 430, Cargo. This was also a good movie, recommended by a coworker. It's a zombie movie with heart. We don't have enough of those. This guy is bitten and he's going to turn into a zombie, but he has this small child. So he needs someone to take care of the small child before he turns into a zombie and eats the small child. So that's kind of his journey. Yeah, interesting movie. 431, Mammal. this was different. This is definitely different. Um, this middle-aged woman, played by Rachel Griffiths, who you may remember from 6 Feet Under, she befriends this teenage boy she found laying in the street, who is the kid from the killing of the sacred deer. His name I don't remember, but he kind of starts living there, and eventually they start fooling around, and it gets kind of weird. But yeah, a lot of things in this movie were just a little off, but that kept me watching, so maybe that's good, I guess. But yeah, 432 Patrick, Evil Awakens. It had the evil king from Game of Thrones. It's Charles something, I don't remember. Charles Dance, maybe? That might be his name. But he's this kind of demented doctor, and he's in charge of all these people that are pretty much lifeless. They're just kind of vegetables, and he's working his way. It's like a twisted version of Awakenings. That's what this movie is. And he's really working hard on this one kid named Patrick, and he's basically torturing this kid, and one of the nurses is convinced that Patrick is trying to communicate with her. So through a series of things, she discovers, Patrick's not quite all the way brain dead. But, yep, interesting horror. This is a remake of one from the 70s. Have not seen the original. Probably won't, but we'll see. 433, Smack 'em Up. This was a pro wrestling documentary. Basically just followed pro wrestler Finn Balor, or as he's called in the film by his real name, Fergal, on his last tour of Japan before he comes to America to join the WWE. And it just shows you the different styles, the different how wrestling over there is viewed a lot different than over here. But I guess it was okay. 434, The Unraveling. First half was good. These guys kidnap their buddy, you see, and they take him out to this little getaway in the woods, and then they start getting picked off one by one, and then he's the last one. And then he comes face to face with what took his buddies, and you think you get a scary showdown, and then it takes a big twist and turn, and nope. So don't expect much of an ending if you do watch The Unraveling. 435, The Life Before Her Eyes. Uma Thurman. I swear she does not age. She has looked like she's been 30 years old for 25 years. How she does that, I don't know. But it has a lot of flashbacks in this movie. But basically, when she was a teenager, she was a victim, or she was there during a school shooting, and she had a face-to-face encounter with the killer, and then it kind of goes back and forth with her modern day when she is a husband and a child, and she's concerned the child might have to, doesn't want her child to go through what she went through, but she doesn't want to relive the past because it's coming up on the anniversary of the shooting. And then there's another weird twist ending, and it's like, oh. It was just okay, though. 436. The Living End. It's about two gay guys in the early 90s, and guess what they've both been just diagnosed with?
Everyone has AIDS! AIDS, AIDS, AIDS! AIDS, 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 AIDS! Everyone has AIDS!
Yes, they both have AIDS, and they both find each other and go on a road trip. And one becomes like a crazy Thelma and Louise type crazy killer. And the other one just wants to get home, so they're constantly fighting. But, yeah. Don't know. This was strange. This was different. Yeah. 437, The Martyrs. I was watching or looking at a list of top 100 films of all time from somewhere, and it had this film on there, so I decided, well, I haven't seen it. I need to look at that. It was pretty good. This chick who claims she was tortured as a child, and she spends her life trying to find out who did this so she can get some payback, and she claims to finally have found the couple and kills them. And then her friend is trying to get her out of there, and they go poking around and they find the torture chamber, and things go from there. But interesting film, The Martyrs. 438, Wish Upon. This girl sees her mom commit suicide, and then it fast forward 10 years later, and she finds this box given to her by her father, Ryan Philippe, where she discovers that your wishes come true. So she has and it's from Japan, and she has the language on the box interpreted, and it says for each wish you make, you're gonna make a blood sacrifice, and so every time she makes a wish, someone close to her dies. The real story of this film is Ryan Philippe's beard. It goes from being scruffy in one scene to clean in the next, and then really short in the next, and then it's scruffy again in the next scene, and then it's shaven, and then it's back, and then it's scruffy again, and then it's clean shaven again. They need to have a full-time person in charge of that beard to make sure. But yeah, it was okay, I guess. 439, Tonight She Comes. This was well reviewed by a lot of the indie horror people, a lot of the lists of top movies of the year, and I guess it's like a train wreck that you have to keep watching to see, what's going to go on. But it's a weird take on zombie movies. Just a lot of nonsense. I don't know what else to say. This mailman goes to this people's house, delivers some mail, and he gets involved in this mess of craziness. I give up. 440, Deep Red. It's an old 70s movie. And this psychic is having this meeting in an auditorium, and she outs one of the people in the crowd as a killer, and so that guy takes off. So then later the killer kills the psychic, but there's a witness, and the killer sees this, so now he starts stalking the witness, and that's kind of where the main part of the movie is. But dumb finish though, dumb ending. Would not recommend. 441 XX. It's currently on Netflix. It's basically 4 little stories rolled into one film, all good. The one about the starving children is probably the best. That's probably most intriguing of the bunch. The panda suit one is not bad, but yeah, nice little film. 442, For Greater Glory. Andy Garcia stars. Set in the early 1900s. This after their Revolutionary War, religion was outlawed. So people started to rise up to fight for their religious freedom. So Andy Garcia kind of led the charge on that. And kind of led this little militia across the country to fight for their freedom. They had a lot of young children also fighting in the war. Oscar Isaac co-starred. This is a long movie, so be prepared. But it's not bad. 443, The Thin Man. This was a very low-rent found footage movie of these people summoning the Thin Man, and then things start going crazy, but it's just well enough made that it kept my interest. Because they don't show you too much until the end, and then things kind of explode. But, yeah, not horrible, but just cheap. 444, The Jogger. I I think this film only had 1 hour of footage, and then they realized that, and then they said, what do we do? So we just have a bunch of flashbacks to fill up the rest of the time, because there's a lot of flashbacks. Basically, this jogger who ticked off somebody at the wrong time is getting stalked as he's going out for his daily jog, and he's trying to find out who it is as he's getting stalked, and he's running around from house to house and in the woods and every which way, and yeah, and then it does a girl on the train type twist where it reveals that what you're watching is not what you're watching. Yeah. Can't recommend that one though. 4:45, this movie, Inferno, from 1980. This girl finds a book called The Three Mothers, and she thinks that there's more to this book than just a story, so she starts to investigate it. She comes to America to talk to people about it, and the more digger she deeps, the more she realizes that this is some major conspiracy stuff type going on here, and she gets attacked by everyone from every angle, and people start dying off around her, and yeah. Horrible film, though. This was... That being said, I watched something the director did here shortly, and we'll get to that in a minute. In Secret. I figured I'd be bored to death when I watched when I looked at the synopsis, but this was really an amazing film. In Secret, this Jessica Lange and her kind of sickly son adopt this girl because her dad has to go away and he doesn't come back. And so once the sickly boy is old enough to marry, she decides, why not have the girl marry him? It's just not what she really wants to do, but she goes along, and then they move to Paris. And then, of course, the girl falls in love with this other guy, played by Oscar Isaac. And Oscar Isaac and the girl are trying to figure out how they can be together without hiding in the shadows. So they decide, well, let's kill the sick guy. So, I'll be free and I can marry who I choose. So they kill the sick guy, and then they realize, oops, that was probably not a great thing to do, but they're both kind of tortured with their decision and are trying to move forward. But it's not so easy. And then, yeah, but it has a few twists from there. But yeah, very good movie, In Secret. This movie, 4:47, Sangre, from the director of the Inferno. I don't know why I watched another one of his movies, but I did. And okay, follow me here. It's centered around this Mexican circus, and the guy that runs the circus, the ringleader, he has the ringmaster, I guess. He has a kid with the chick that gets hung by her hair, gets pulled up, and he's like 10 years old, and he's like the magician of the circus. Oh, and then there's this scene where this elephant's dying, and he's squirting out blood from his tusk. And then when it dies, they throw it in the landfill, and all these zombie people start eating it. But, yeah, back to So then the ringmaster, he has an affair with the painted woman. And then the hung by the hair lady catches them in the act and goes crazy. So the ringmaster chops off her arms and then kills himself. And then fast forward several years later, and then the magician kid is in a orphanage full of kids with Down syndrome. The magician does not have Down syndrome; just every other kid in this orphanage does. But he eventually escapes, kills the painted lady, and then joins up with his armless mother and does a little stage act where he stands behind her and pretends to be her arms as she dances around. And that's all in the first half, folks. I thought this movie's got to be winding up, and I checked, and nope, I'm 1 hour in a 2-hour movie. And it only gets crazier from there, believe me. apparently Michael Jackson was a big fan of this movie because he's apparently used several one-liners in the film in his songs, i.e. the elephant is dying. So yeah, I thought that shouldn't surprise me though. This complete bizarre but fascinating film. 448 Little Fish. Too many stories going on in this. Kate Blanchett, basically what's going on. Kate Blanchett, she has this boyfriend, and her boyfriend from years ago pops up and kind of invites himself to dinner, so it can be kind of awkward, and things kind of go from there. But there's this weird side stories with Hugo Weaving, and he's an ex-drug addict, and the mother hates him. And then there's Sam Neill, who's kind of a drug pusher. And he has this weird relationship with Hugo Weaving. But too many side stories. Should have focused on the main story. But that part, not horrible though. 449, Haunted State, Theater of Shadows, documentary basically about these kids. They do a really good job of ghost investigating, but when you've seen every episode of Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, Ghost Lab, and Ghost Detectives, which only lasted one season but was really good because it was run by cops, actual detectives, you know. But yeah, they kind of go to these theaters in Wisconsin and do ghost investigations, and they do a really good job, but it's so straightforward and so kind of dull. There's several of these at this Haunted State collection, but yeah, just okay. And then I thought I had seen the strangest film ever with Sangre. Boy, this movie is on that same level. This movie is Mother. 450 Mother. Someone please explain to me what this is supposed to be. Jennifer Lawrence, her boyfriend, her husband, Javier Bardem, who I haven't seen since No Country for Old Men, who's got to be 30 years older than she is. But anyway, people keep coming into the house. She keeps getting gradually more and more upset. So what does her husband do? He keeps inviting more people in the house. It starts with Ed Harris. It's nice to see Ed Harris. I haven't seen him in a while. And Michelle Pfeiffer. And pretty soon, then their kids, Michelle Pfeiffer's kids, pop in. And it gradually kind of steamrolls out of control. And then it just, gosh. I can see why people were split on this movie, because it's fascinating to watch, but good luck making any sense out of this. And then there's a baby. I've talked about killing kids in movies, and they kill a newborn baby. This movie holds nothing, and it's directed by the Darren Aronofsky, who did a great job with the Make Your Work movie, The Wrestler. But this movie, gosh, I don't know. I'll have to do some investigation on this one. This will be my little project to see what this is supposed to tell me. But yeah, just a mess of a film, but yet fascinating in its craziness. But yeah, that's it for this one. Strange batch. Hopefully the next batch will be more on the norm. But we'll see. We'll talk to you later.